There is a moment, nearly always unnoticed, when two people look at each other and then look away. A wordless instant where everything could bloom, but doesn't. Have you ever felt it? The warmth of longing meeting the cold wall of an unnamed fear? How many times has your soul wanted to undress, only to retreat, ashamed of its own nakedness? What fear truly keeps us from unveiling our soul, even to those we love? A man walked along the edge of a narrow river. The water was shallow, yet no one crossed it. "It's just one step," the villagers said. But no one took it. Each day, he looked across to the woman on the other side. Their eyes exchanged silent promises, but their feet never moved. Love grew between them like a bridge never begun, a letter never sent. Time flowed differently there, as if the sun avoided the patch of land where the unsaid lived. She came to the shore with hands full of words, only to let the wind carry them away. He carved gestures he never gave. Both fed the same hunger, yet ate alone. Each missed gesture was another brick in the wall of almost. The villagers claimed the crossing was easy, but what did they know of the soul's weight? The river, though shallow, held the dense waters of memory. Denied, muffled, forgotten. It wasn't depth that frightened them, but the reflection. For at the edge it was impossible not to see your own face, tired of waiting, marked by absence. She tended a garden where nothing grew. He carved figures with eyes but no mouths. They said they liked silence, but silence didn't speak back. At village dances, they moved close, yet the soul stayed hidden. Every touch was rationed. Laughter always ended in a pause where fear returned to breathe. She stored unsent letters beneath her bed. He kept a notebook of broken bridges, some cracked in the middle, others never left the ground. Their bond was built not on what was said, but on what was held back. Still, they returned to the shore, every day. Long before this shore, there was another bridge, from childhood. He once ran across it to catch up with a girl, until she left. The bridge, abandoned, broke. Since then, he learned to stay where the ground felt safe. She had ruins too. A garden that once bloomed, until inner storms came, and the one who claimed to love her couldn't stay. She learned exposing the soul could mean being left, so she offered only what could be taken back easily. These stories were never told, not even to themselves. Some wounds live in locked basements, where only the scent escapes. At night, he'd wake with the sensation of falling inward. She dreamt of hands letting go, always at the peak of tenderness. They carried within them maps drawn by ancient fears, followed as if they were truth. The body grew, but the soul stayed curled at the edge of that first scare. That's why they hesitated. Every approach touched something raw. No words, but they felt it. That tremble when the soul senses something precious might be lost, or finally, terrifyingly, found. Because finding sometimes frightens more than losing. One morning he found a stone, smooth, split, and sealed. It wasn't beautiful, but it brought peace. He placed it on his table. The next day it was on the windowsill. No one else had entered, except the wind, and maybe her. He said nothing. Quietly, he returned the stone to the shore. Days later, it reappeared, on the bench, with a red thread tied around it. He smiled, for the first time in years, without fear. The stone began to travel between them, a word that didn't yet know how to become a sentence. It was a silent pact, not yet a bridge, but perhaps the wish for one. She left a button. He returned a paper boat, a dried flower, a carved stick, a key, a seed. Love, once timid, found breath through these offerings, as if their hands, long locked by fear, were learning to trust again. The villagers laughed. Are they playing like children? They didn't understand. It wasn't play. It was the memory of offering without defense, of trusting the other to read the soul's language without needing words. And with each silent exchange, time softened. The river, though uncrossed, now mirrored more waiting than fear. One afternoon, he left a folded leaf shaped like a bird. Inside a single word, if. His first direct message even veiled in mist. The next day, the bird lay torn, the note soaked, and she was gone. She couldn't explain why. The word if awoke an ancient ache, a reminder of all that could have been and wasn't, of promises once spoken, then withdrawn. She wept, unsure if for him, for herself, or for all the bridges that never came to be. That week, silence returned. The wind grew still, objects unmoved. He wondered if he'd gone too far. She, if she'd felt too much. Both wished they hadn't begun, because now, it hurt. But it was too late to return. Silence, once shelter, had become a cage. The space between them now held the ache of something real, a hunger for what hadn't yet happened, a thirst after a single sip. The village carried on, unaware. But by the river, two souls trembled. They knew, either retreat once more or dare the impossible. That night she left her home carrying a small wooden box, the one that held her unsent letters. She buried it by his bench. "Now it's yours," she whispered. By morning, he saw the soil disturbed, a red thread tied to a branch. He didn't unearth the box, just sat upon it and wept, not knowing if it was sorrow or relief. But he wept, because something had been crossed. The next morning he returned with empty hands, but in that emptiness, everything. She stood across the river, whole, just herself, eyes on eyes, and neither turned away. That's how the bridge began, not wood or stone, but presence. The river remained cold, shallow, unchanged, but the ground beneath whispered, "Now." He stepped in gently. Each footfall stirred memory. She followed, a few steps, then stopped. Because crossing isn't rushing, it's allowing space to meet. They met in the middle and didn't touch. They simply smiled, small but vast. There in the river's heart, no bridge, no script, intimacy emerged. Not absence of fear, but courage shared. The water lapped at their ankles, and in that soft rhythm, a music rose. Maybe the song the stones had tried to sing, maybe the hush of seeds waiting, maybe just the sound of two souls no longer hiding. The village never noticed, still claimed no one crossed that river. But in its center, something sacred had happened. You couldn't see it, but you could feel it. There, between two shores and no bridge, the soul found home. The river flows on, the bench remains, the buried box lies silent. But something shifted, not out there, but within. They still walk the shore, sometimes together, sometimes alone. But now they name their fears and love, without guarantees. Not a happy ending, a true beginning. Intimacy didn't make them perfect, just more human, more possible. Shadows still pass, but so does the quiet vow. Return. For those who've crossed the unsaid know how to come back, even in the dark, even afraid. Some in the village say nothing happened, but passers-by feel it. A lightness in the air, a comfort in the absence, as if an invisible bridge now spans the water, formed of all that was never said, but deeply felt. The stone is still there, its red thread wrapped around a fallen trunk, and each spring flowers bloom around it, though no one plants them, because some things grow when the soul says yes. And you? Are you still watching from the shore? Or have you begun walking toward the center? Not every bridge must be seen to be crossed. Leave a stone where you once feared to speak. Return one day, and listen to what silence answers. On the hidden path, there is always another shore waiting for you.